Welcome to Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe podcast. Relationship Bite is a platform for everything relationship. Mother-child relationship, father-daughter, siblings, sister-in-laws, parents-in-laws, everything you need to know about relationship. It is said that one of the most important needs of human is belonging. It simply means that relationship is as important as being human. I will be taking you on a journey of everything relationship. Join me, Wendy Ologe, every fortnight as we explore the intricacies of different forms of relationship, the positives, the negatives, the wins, the losses, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else in between. And most importantly, the lessons we will learn from them. Relationship Bite with Wendy Ologe is your plug for real life experiences on diverse relationships and how we can maximize these relationships for the best. Alrighty, so welcome again to Relationship Bite, and today we have an interesting guest. But before we introduce our guest, we are introducing the hosts. I'm not the one hosting today. We have an amazing host in the yard. So yes, we're going to be having the hosts come up, and then I would also be a guest, some like a support guest kind of. So yes, over to you, our hosts.
Okay, hello everybody. You're welcome to the conversation tonight. So I'm just going to be asking questions and we'll be hearing from our marriage counselors.
All right, our host didn't introduce himself.
Oh, okay. My name is Chidozie Eze and it's interesting to be here. You're welcome again.
All right, thank you so much, Coach T. And then we're going to be having the governor, and he's going to be sharing with us on reinventing romance. Are you ready, sir?
Splendid. Happy to be here again. My name is Kunle Ologe, married counselor and founder of the Marriage Seal Academy, and my wife calls me the governor.
All right, over to you, our host. I'm going to be a guest. Remember.
Okay, so I'm going to be shooting the questions and we'll listen to our guests. So let's get right into it. Question one to the marriage counselor, sir. From your personal experience, as a marriage counselor, this is like two in one question. What are some of the challenges you believe couples face in keeping their romance alive, especially in long-term relationships? And then how can they overcome these challenges?
All right. So, one challenge that jumps up, at this question immediately is boredom. Boredom. So, one of the six purposes of marriage is enjoyment. And enjoyment has everything about fun, being happy, laughter, and things that are exciting generally. Now, when a marriage is boring, it's difficult for you to say the romance will be kept up. Now, what's romance? Romance basically is beyond, when you hear romance, people just think it's physical touch. It's beyond that. Romance is just a general feeling of excitement, between two people who are, in a relationship. That's what romance is. So it's the excitement really that romance speaks about. So when there is boredom in a marriage, then it's difficult for you to really have good romance in that marriage. And many marriages are boring. Um 2020 was it 2020 2021? I think I wrote the book 20 fun things to do with your
In marriage.
spouse, and I wrote that book because as a counselor, I kept seeing a lot of marriages, come to me, and I find out that, oh, this marriage is boring. That's part of why there is no romance. And then, of course, that book came up to show couples what they could do to help spice it up. Of course, secondly, again, is background. Background is a challenge when it comes to romance. Because if you come from a background where your parents didn't show each other romance, you will most likely not understand how romance runs. You will most likely not exhibit romance in your own marriage. These are some issues that are common challenges to romance in marriage.
So, when this podcast conversation was being shared, right? So we got the young people in the team to put out this questions, and one of the things that one of them said to me was, "You guys have been married for 15 years, and I actually see you people. What happened, or what happens?" And I think that that's where fun actually comes in. You know, why are marriages boring? Why do you think marriage is it not the responsibility? Like, we don't tire now. As in this kind, there are children, there are bills.
Yeah.
All of us are tired now. So, why do you now want us to be having fun when there's responsibility? Yeah. And I think that that's one of the major concerns, really. So I think part of the conversation is, the strategies.
For in
Mm,
inducing fun into the
mm,
relationship.
mm, mm,
Okay, so strategies. Yeah. So um, one first thing that you need to understand about fun in relationships, romance, intimacy is quality time.
Mhm.
How much time is dedicated to the relationship itself?
mm,
When people get married, before they get married, there's so much dedication of time to relationship. They spend time talking, spend time going out, spend time doing things together. But just as my lovely wife has said, when the responsibilities come, that time is shifted to other responsibilities.
mhm.
Now, you need to understand that yes, you must dedicate time to other responsibilities that come up, like children, like work and things like that. However, you cannot remove the time that you need to dedicate to the relationship itself.
True.
And when people claim that there's no time to dedicate, I say it's not true, because you create time to play with your friends. You still go out with the boys. You still go out shopping with the girls. You still do so many things with other people.
And watch movie,
You watch movies,
series,
you attend parties, you
mm,
go for weddings.
wedding.
So who
You do every
says
other thing except this one.
exactly? So who says there's no time? It is
Mm,
just your priority. So your priority is wrong. And so one of the first strategies you need to do is create quality time. In fact, if you're a member of the Couples Conclave, that's the 11-month program of the Marriage Seal Academy, you will understand why you should have gisting time. We call it gisting time in the Couples Conclave. So at least a minimum of 2 hours every day, maybe one if your day is too tight. You should create it and dedicate it to your spouse, just the two of you. When the kids are sleeping, when everybody else, create one time like that you will gist every day. So this is a big strategy. In fact, I want to say it's one of the biggest strategies that you will need to bring up intimacy, increase romance. That's one big thing that you need to do. Then of course it now follows with other things like speaking the love language of your spouse, because everybody has a love language. Gary Chapman wrote that beautiful book, The Five Love Languages. And in that book, you will start to see that there are 5 ways that people can feel love. A love language is what you do to your spouse to make her or make him feel loved, not to make you feel loved. What makes your spouse feel loved? And you have love languages like quality time,
mm.
receiving gifts, words of affirmation, and so on and so forth. So what is the love
Love
language
language.
of your spouse? And are you speaking the love language of your spouse? When you start speaking the love language of your spouse, it's another strategy to help spark up intimacy and romance in a marriage.
Okay, so you have heard it. So let the enjoyment begin. Enjoy your marriage. And the relationship is part of the responsibility. So after you
Mm,
finish counting the responsibility, we have just heard that relationship is part of your responsibility. Put it on
mhm,
your schedule. So, sir, my next question was going to be about intimacy, and you mentioned it while you were answering the first question when you said that intimacy doesn't necessarily have to be about physical touch and all of that. Please, can you throw more light on that subject of it? Help us understand what exactly makes up this word called intimacy.
Mm.
All right, thank you. So intimacy just means being very close, being into each other about a particular thing.
Mm.
Of course, sexual intimacy is what is always on the front burner, and that's what everybody thinks about when you talk about intimacy. But
Mm.
intimacy is beyond sex. There are different types of intimacy. There's financial intimacy, for instance.
Mm.
There's
Mhm.
conflict intimacy, for instance. So there are all kinds of
Spiritual.
there's spiritual intimacy. So there are all kinds of intimacy. Remember, I said you being into each other when it comes to that particular matter.
Mm.
So you are so close to each other that you think alike, you do alike, you behave alike. So intimacy is actually a wide word, in marriage, and people don't understand this. So people can be intimate on bed, but when it comes to financial matters, they're
They are
not
not.
intimate.
Mm.
So they are
Wow.
not really
Wow.
generally intimate in their
Mm.
marriage.
Wow.
They're only intimate
In
in
one
just
aspect.
one aspect of the marriage.
Mm. And it's so, I
However,
think it's easy to be intimate sexually. Really.
yeah, I mean, it's
Mm,
easy
mm,
because your
mm.
body, even if your mind doesn't want to be intimate, your body will be
Can,
intimate.
yeah.
So your body can be intimate. But the other things, what happens to the other things? And romance, like we said, remember, I said romance is not about just having sex. Romance is it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a feeling, a circumstance that you create, and if you want to call it an ambience that you create, okay, of excitedly feeling loved or loving somebody else. And you can love somebody else financially.
Wow.
You can love somebody else spiritually.
Mm.
Interesting.
So there's so many things that come around that word intimacy.
Intimacy.
And we need to understand that. And that's where marriages miss it, because they're intimate on bed, but not intimate in any other thing. So they're not on the same page. I mean, you see them, they're like two different people. Meanwhile, marriage is supposed to be two different people coming together to become one. But what you see in a lot of marriages is two different people working on two different paths. So they're not even trying. It's like working on parallel paths.
Mm.
So there's no time that they're coming together as well.
A lot of people ask us this question. We've been married for 15 years. Oh, by the way, our anniversary was on the 21st of March.
Yes,
And I
21st of
am
March.
sure that you have seen our story
I
of
have
our
seen that
50
video.
of our 50 years in marriage. We just, like to chronicle the years, and then we like to, create activities around marriage to keep it alive. Many times people actually have asked, you guys are really close. You can actually say anything to your spouse and all of that. And people just think that once you're married, these things should happen. I think that's one of the problems,
Yeah.
right? So one of the problem is,
It
are
has
you
to
not
be
married?
automatic.
It has to be automatic. And then when it's not automatic, it's not happening, you're praying. Oh Lord, let my husband be close to me. Let him be able to, talk to me. Let my wife be able to confide in me. Yes, as much as the prayer part is awesome, I really think that a lot of couples need to really work in marriage. Any marriage that is working, it has someone working on it. So it doesn't just work on its own. All right. Yes.
Okay. So let me stay with you, Coach Wendy. Let me stay with you for a few more moments talking about this intimacy thing, because God has just opened our eyes to different kinds of intimacy. So what are the strategies for building, say, financial intimacy, say, spiritual intimacy, and all the other things that are types or kinds of intimacy?
Was it yesterday we were talking about crisis intimacy?
Yeah.
And we were saying that a lot of homes, you find out that something happens in their home, conflict, and they don't come out of it.
Yeah.
Because they've not been able to build an intimacy in crisis, for instance. So when there is crisis, everybody disintegrates. So crisis is happening. They've not come to a place where they understand that we are together, even in this. So it's always, so blames get thrown. So it's because a lot of couples have not learned to actually resolve conflict properly.
Yeah.
So when you don't learn how to the skills, you won't be able to build crisis intimacy. So I have seen couple lose a child and their marriage breaks down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I have seen couples lose their home or lose an arm of their financial,
Yeah, a
a
or
business or
something.
something, and their marriage goes to a total halt. Sometimes it doesn't even end up in a divorce, but the marriage doesn't return.
Yeah.
So everybody just
So they're
living
just
there.
cohabiting.
Yes, like the governor will say.
Mhm.
They're just there, they're neighbors, they're
Married
roommates.
neighbors.
Yes, they're roommates. And you find out that this thing happens in many homes.
Yeah.
So people will just say, hey, it's just there. But you find out that resentment now comes in. A lot of couples live in resentment so much. The governor did a class on resentment. It resonated with so many people. And truth is, when we went for retreat last year, I shared a story on resentment on my own mother. And I shared it, and it resonated with a lot of people. So we live in these things, for so long. And when you see the relationship between my parents, it wasn't a crisis relationship. It's just that something, an event that occurred and occurred and occurred that wasn't resolved, grew. And my mom was angry about it for a long time. And the day she busted it out, my dad was in shock. So it's important that couple actually learn to build intimacy. How do you build crisis intimacy? You first of all need to build conflict resolution skills,
Yeah.
communication skills. If you want to build financial intimacy, you first of all need to build trust. Because without trust, it's not going to work. So you want to be able to trust that. A very typical example is that I am with my husband's ATM card and he sees a debit of 1 million naira in that ATM. And he doesn't go into a panic mood. Hello, baby, where are you? What are you buying? What? He won't.
True.
So I've been somewhere and I saw in our account and I saw a debit of a very huge amount of money. There was no conversation before then. I didn't know what the money was for, but I didn't go into a panic mood. I didn't begin to call my husband to say, hey, that money, hey, what happened? Why is it leaving the account? No. I knew that if the money had to leave the account, it was for a good reason. So it was okay. By the time I now got, it was like, this came up and this is it. I trusted that whatever it is that the money was used for was for a good cause. Right? And same with me. He won't see me doing, maybe I do a transfer and then he sees an alert on his account and he's agitated. Or he's saying, who knows, maybe my wife has gone to squander our money. Who knows where she has entered? So that trust is the first thing to build. And the provider you don't build trust, you can't build financial intimacy. And then another thing on building financial intimacy will be your knowledge on finance. Most of us, most women look at money as a god. Don't say I said so. But
Did
it's
you hear
true. But it's true. There's this god of money that we worship. So everything's about my money, my money. That's why you hear that saying, my money is my money. His money is our money. Those things, I see it as the god of money. I see it as worshiping money. Our concept of money is very wrong. So if you understand that money is a reward for a value you provide. So your understanding of money also helps in building financial intimacy. You understand that it's money now, it's reward for value. So how do we make it? So these are a few things. Of course, it's much
wide,
more,
yes,
wider.
yes.
I think the governor and I should write a book on intimacy and the different kinds of intimacies.
We should. And talking about that crisis intimacy, I mean, I remember another case of a husband and a wife where the wife insulted the mother of the man. And from that day, the man told her that for this thing that you have done, I will never forgive you. And from that day, for years, they were just cohabiting. And because they didn't both have the skills
to resolve
the conflict,
yes,
it just dragged on until, of course, eventually somebody introduced them to me, and then we now started working together, and then I now started teaching them those same skills that they needed. Because if they had the skills, it wouldn't have needed. Yes, the man was
would have
hot.
been upset.
Yes, he was upset, rightfully so.
Mm.
However, they could have sat down
resolved
to
it.
To
talk
resolve
about
it.
it. So you need these skills in your marriage. If
True.
you are doing marriage on
Unskilled.
guesswork,
Mm.
or you are doing it unskilled,
Mm.
you are going to run into big issues. And talking about that, we have the course resolving
Conflict
conflicts
in
in
marriage.
marriage that is coming up this month. I want to encourage everybody who is listening to me right now. It's run by the academy, the Marriage Seal Academy. We're running it for 2 days. We run it only once every year. So once we do it in this April till next year, April again. I want to implore every single married person that is listening to me to hurry and register and come and learn those skills you need, so that when crisis, because whether crisis will come or not, it will definitely come. How you resolve that crisis is when. How you resolve the crisis is going to be determined by the skills
that you
you
acquire.
have.
True.
If you don't have the skills, the crisis, don't be like the couple that came to me that have been married for 21 years, and the problem they came with is 21 years old.
Ew.
Wow.
So for 21 years, they've had, do you know what 21 years is?
And they've had kids.
And of course, they've
Of
had
course.
kids.
It's older than their
It's
children.
older than the children. So you can imagine, and unfortunately, there are many marriages like this.
that.
So the problem is just there, it's swept under the carpet, and then they are just,
True.
they are just cohabiting. They're just cohabiting.
Wow. Okay, you've heard it from the marriage counselor. By the way, go and see a counselor. Before my next question, he mentioned a book about fun things that you can do. Go and get knowledge. That's one of the things we pick from this question. Get knowledge, learn skills, and then build trust. So my next question is still on this subject of, you both have mentioned things that relate to communication and how all of these things can be done. I want you to address the question of familiarity. So in the marriage, because we're discussing long-term relationships, when you're married for a while, people get familiar with,
After
we've been
a
in
while.
this thing ahead. So talk to us how to navigate those periods when everything has become like routine. Everything I know what to expect. So what should couples do in that case?
Oh, this is a very beautiful question, and I really
Yeah.
like this question because the issue of familiarity is real. It's very real, and in some marriages, this particular issue can actually rock the marriage. So it is very, very real. And one of the things that happens, of course, when you get married for a long time, is that you get used to each other. So you just feel that, well, is there any need for me to greet this person in the morning? Or do I need to ask her if she says she has a headache? Do I need to ask
her especially
her
what's wrong?
especially what's wrong?
I already know she's okay.
You just get
Do I
okay
need to
with
tell her
it.
that I love her?
Do I need to say I
She
love
already
you?
knows.
She already knows.
I
Now
marry
that
you.
is familiarity digging deep. And before you know what's happening, one spouse is resenting the other based on the things that have or have not been done. Now, one major thing you can use to help yourself is having an accountability system. There is no couple that should walk alone. I can't remember what team is that they say we don't walk alone. So there's no couple that should actually walk alone. I think it's Liverpool. No couple should actually walk alone. It's dangerous to just say we are a couple on our own. You don't have any mentor. You don't have any accountability program that you belong to. That is danger. You are walking into danger.
We just know what we are doing.
You just claim that, oh, well, we know what we are doing. So you
do what works for you.
Do what works for you. That evil statement. That is a terrible thing. So one thing that can help you really is to be in an accountability program. And that's one of the reasons we set up the Couples Conclave program of the Marriage Seal Academy. It's an accountability program where all year round, we are just talking marriage. You're just in that whole circle with other married people. We are having daily tips on marriage. So you are reminded that you are married every single day. And it's gentle. There's nothing, no serious. no seniors work to be done or anything, but it's just an accountability system
that makes your marriage just
it
good.
makes your marriage good. It rejuvenates your marriage.
Yeah.
It keeps it on fire. If you don't belong to that, you will definitely this familiarity thing will happen.
Will
It
set
happens in
in.
all relationships,
Yeah.
even in the workplace.
Yeah.
Why do you
True,
think you have
true.
retreats in the workplace also? So that you kill things like that. You try and remind people what they should do and all of that. So these are the things that you can. I mean, that's one major thing that you should do to actually build or destroy that familiarity spirit.
And I think
Right.
we wait too long
Yeah.
Yes.
for things to be sorted in marriage. So my youngest brother, my baby brother, just got married.
Okay.
I know, and he doesn't like the baby part. Yeah, but pretty young, and he just got married. Before he got married, he joined the couples conclave.
Yeah.
He's actually already in the couples conclave. He was about to get married, maybe like a few months. He just told the conclave was starting, and I said, we are mentors to him. Apart from being his sibling, and we're like, you know what, you're gonna join the couples conclave, and you join it now
And start learning.
and start learning. I don't want you to get 10 years later. You now say, I don't know. He's not taking me for granted. I don't want us to get there. So if you learn from the beginning, you won't get to the point where you're saying this person is taking you for granted. You already know what to expect and what not to expect. I have a relative who, have this relationship with the wife and, very okay relationship, nice and all of that. And the guy started to grow. The guy started to become big, and started to, occupy some kind of positions. And he started having a problem with his wife, just calling him his name like that.
You have to call me doctor.
And just speaking to him, like that. While that looked a bit awkward to the woman, I understand it. That's the truth. I understand it because as the man was growing, he got into a position of honor. And then people started to, revert
Treat him like that.
And then he comes home and his wife just treats him like, oh boy, this is where they do like this. So, what did they do you now? It became a problem. So he started saying, when I go to the office, I'm like, people actually, if in my office, you can't talk to me. So he comes home, honor.
Yeah. Honor.
So you begin to actually, cross the lines of honor. And then, that marriage begins to crack slowly, gently, but surely. And then you now find out that, so I usually say that love is not enough to sustain a long-term relationship. You need to be able to understand principles, honor. Because if you understand honor, then you understand that you are not going to. I remember the first time that we're having a disagreement, my husband and I. And I said, Kunle Ologe, and then he turned. He said, don't call me that. Like, come on, woman. Like, I don't get it. Yeah. Why are you calling me like that? This kind of, are you my mother?
When did you start?
My son will say to, the sister, when he calls him, Ayoluwa Ologe, he said, please, don't call me that. You're not my mother. So he turned to me like, are you my mother? And, it dawned on me. When we're talking about it, all like, we were trying to resolve a conflict. I don't understand. As in, like, I'm supposed to just, but it was for me, it was just like an emphasis kind of moment.
Yeah.
Like, hello, Kulologe, no, that shouldn't have happened. And then, it sounded awkward in my mouth as well. All right. But, he also taught me something that even in the moment, even in conflict, you should also not cross the line. Yeah, people will say that, but the person is supposed to be your friend, your spouse. Yes, I agree. But at the same time, you must also be careful, even for your friends.
True.
You must also not cross the line of honor. Because when you do, what did we call it? See finish.
That's the word. That's the Nigerian word.
Yes, the Nigerian, yes, see finish. I know that we have some non-Nigerians who listen to this podcast. See finish means familiarity. Too much familiarity. So don't get to that point. It's a consciousness really for people who have been in a long-term relationship. But for you to avoid it, start now. To build marriage systems. That's what my husband calls it. Marriage systems. Yes, marriage systems. Stay accountable.
Start early. In case you are already late, start now. The next best time is now. And then build accountability, build systems. But I don't know which of you mentioned that thing about doing marriage unskilled. And in my head, I just went to unskilled labor.
Mm.
So you now become laborer in your
Yeah,
marriage.
true.
Interesting. But then, you mentioned something very important, and that's growth. That example you gave about somebody who had grown in his career, and then the woman now needs to learn to catch up there. Please, help us out. I want you to throw more light on this issue about individual growth, maintaining a sense of self within that relationship, personal development, and all the dynamics in that space, just as a way to avoid these things from coming up.
All right. So in my book, Building Your Marriage Plan, one of the plans that you are supposed to build is your plan on capacity.
Mm.
How you are supposed to build capacity in your marriage. You see, when you have a marriage that one spouse is building himself or herself,
The other person
very
is
and the
just
other
there.
person is not interested at all in building, as in the other person is where, when they got married, where the person was, that's where the person is, then you are going to have an issue, because as the other spouse is growing, you who is not growing will just, that's where the see finish even comes in.
Mm.
And you just, there's no honor, because you can't even understand that this person has done something greater
Yeah.
than what
Yeah.
he or she used to have. So you need, everybody needs to build themselves. Personal building in a marriage, and this is so crucial. Now, we're not saying you must be the same. For instance, let's use the educational degrees, for instance. So your husband has a PhD, and you have a first
First
degree.
degree.
Now, there's really nothing wrong with that. If with your first degree you are getting certifications, as in you are learning something new, you are developing yourself. So nobody is saying go and get a PhD also. We are only saying
Just stay
also
in a
catch
learning
up.
system.
Yeah.
Stay in a learning system, read books, become
develop
intelligent,
yourself.
because that man that has a
Become
PhD
intelligent.
is going to start communicating with you at that level of intelligence. And then you are stuck where you are. And of course, the one that is happening now that is really scary is we're having so many women developing themselves,
So
More
fast.
and the
than their
men are
men.
not.
And the men at the back.
So the men just take self-development as
Like
well. Oh,
it's nothing.
yeah,
They will just want to collect your
you
money.
people should continue playing. We're the ones doing the business and
They want making the
building.
money.
Look, development is far beyond making money.
Yeah.
We're talking about intellectual development.
Yep.
So you may be a billionaire, but your conversations are like somebody
Not
who
catching
is
up.
a pauper.
True.
And that will be a problem when your spouse can no longer relate with you.
True.
Communication also has to do with
That's
your
where
level,
intellectual intimacy
intellectual
comes
intimacy.
in.
Yeah.
So it's very, there are some people who are sapiosexual,
True.
which means they are attracted to
We are
people
here.
Intellectual
who
people.
can,
We are here.
they can flow with intellectually. And my wife is shouting, "We are here, we are here,"
Yes, we are.
even though I'm smarter than she is. But
Yes, that's
anyway,
why I'm married to you.
but anyway,
so yes.
but that's the truth. You have people who, that is what attracts them to somebody else. And let's just imagine a woman who is sapiosexual and the husband is not developing himself.
What's the opposite
And
of
then
sapiosexual?
and the husband is not developing himself, and this woman is craving for somebody
Who she can have intelligent conversations with.
So what now happens?
And do you know
can
that those
imagine.
intelligent conversations for people like us is like sex?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can now imagine that
So
what
you
can
can't
happen
connect.
in that kind. Yeah, you can't
You
connect.
can't
That's
connect.
it. So you can't really connect
Yeah.
anymore. So it's just a matter of time that relationship will
Just
drift
crumble.
apart.
It happens a lot to parents in the inner circle. So, of course, you know that I run the inner circle program in the Intentional Parent Academy. And oftentimes, Coach Jose is also in the inner circle. The governor is in the inner circle. But oftentimes, I'm sure that, for both of you, there are just a few men in your cohort, right?
Yeah.
Very
Just
few
one
men.
or two of
Maybe
them.
like, 5 men in a whole cohort of 200, and the rest are women. You find out that after like 2 months, the women have learned so much. All right? The women have learned so much in the system that their husbands are not really, really learning. So you now have, the marriage starts to
Start breaking.
yes, start to break.
Yeah.
Because a woman comes with so much knowledge about
And
parenting.
so many things to talk about.
And so many things to talk about.
And
And the
you're
husband
nowhere to be found.
is one far
And
place. And the
discussing
woman
old
is
stories.
saying, come on, we've moved from here. So I see many marriages begin to have issues, like marriages who have not built those intimacies from day one. Many marriages begin to have issues as soon as one spouse is learning and the other
growing
spouse
ahead
is
of the
not.
other person.
So that's why I usually encourage couples, I usually encourage parents, join the inner circle together. You and your husband.
Yeah.
That way, you're hearing the same thing, you're listening to them the same thing. It also happens in spiritual intimacy.
Yes. I was going there just about now, because I see this with ministers of the gospel. So maybe it's the pastor, he's going for all of these trainings and all of these retreats, and he leaves his wife behind.
Yes.
And after a while,
he's become like a spirit.
He's a big man of God up there.
And you are just a church member.
The wife is just a disciple.
You are just an apostle.
So it affects every aspect of life. And it was going to lead me to ask about the social implications. Because as you develop, your social circle changes also.
Yes.
And so one spouse is going to struggle with the social interaction. Maybe it's the man or the woman. Either way. So let me use the woman as the example. She has grown. She's become this head of department or
somewhere,
parastatal or something. And then she starts meeting other people at that level. Then the man is jealous. Because he can't play in that field. Please talk to us about the social implication of this growth conversation.
You know, this intimacy thing is on all levels. All levels. So you wake up one day, you just see your wife sitting in one forum, and so I am, it's my husband that would say you are a celebrity parent coach. I don't know about the celebrity part, but I am someone that walks into a space and command respect. And then also have been privileged to sit in circles of kings, the high and the mighty, and all of that. And then imagine that I was married to a man who cannot play at that level. The truth of the matter is that you intimidate the man. And, I've heard severally where people tell me, men in the, you've heard that before, but men who come into the inner circle. And when they come in, they say the first thing that, I was looking at when my wife told me about listening to you was, this one is too confident. What is even wrong with that? So already you have that, you now be looking at your wife. Why is she talking to the president? Who does she even think she is? That kind of thing. And then the wife will come home and actually say things. Yes, and actually say things that is really nothing. No. You just say, I know I was sitting with the president wife, but we know she said this, and be like,
you attach a meaning to it.
So you're not sitting with the president. You attach a meaning to everything she does. And that's why when women grow, it becomes a problem. When a man grows too, it becomes a problem.
Because he starts meeting high-class women.
Because he starts sitting high-class women at a certain level. And you're sitting down in one corner.
I tell you something that I was listening to another married counselor recently who was talking about why he sent out questionnaires to find out why men marry second wives in Nigeria. And people answered, and this person answered and said, our brother was going to become the chairman of the local government, and his wife cannot read or write or speak proper English. So we had to go and marry another wife for him that fits that profile. And that the woman is now getting angry and making noise all over the place, saying that he married.
So why did the man teach the woman?
Now, I mean, of course, you could say that, but bottom line is that, I mean, that's an example of what can happen when one spouse is at one level and your level is completely far away from that level. So it's not. In fact,
we saw it in clear example in one of the presidents of the nation. Name withheld. And we saw the difference. And it was some sort of an embarrassment for the man and even for the nation at different points in time. So when a man is growing or a woman is growing and the other person is not growing, it pulls you back. And sometimes your growth will be hindered. Because you get to some point, you're like, let me not do before they say I'm overdoing.
But let me also quickly mention. So in some of these cases, it's not that the person doesn't want to grow. it is like that the other spouse is not
Intimidate.
encouraging that person to grow.
It's possible too.
So we need to be conscious as
To
as
carry
married
along.
people to carry our spouses
True,
along
true,
nicely.
true.
Some people claim they are trying to carry their
True,
spouse along,
true.
but
They are
you are
putting
They are
them
being
down.
arrogant
you are
about it. They are
putting them down. Calling them names
True,
and saying
true,
that you are trying to encourage.
true,
No, you don't encourage
true,
that way.
true.
Encouragement, as the name implies, is encouragement, making the person
Becoming
feel
a
to have
Barnabas.
the courage to do that particular thing. So that's something I want to quickly point out. If you are here, you are listening to us, don't go back home and start telling your husband or your wife
You are
and
not
say,
growing.
you are not growing. They said it. No, the question is you. Who is
Disclaimer.
growing? What have you done to help your spouse grow?
This is so true and so key, because as you're moving in ahead in your life, you must be able. Sometimes, my husband and I were reading a book together, or we're doing a course together, or we're doing something, together, just to help us to be able to be at the same level as we're growing. Yeah.
Okay, so you have heard it. We're not talking to the people at the back. We're talking to you that is listening to us right now. Go encourage your spouse and please grow together. Let's tone down this conversation a little bit and let's talk a bit more about fun. So, go talk to us. Creative date night ideas, creative activity. I know you mentioned the fun things.
Yeah,
that
the
you wrote a
book,
but
yeah.
share some ideas for people listening to us now. What are some creative things that couples can do to spark romance? Some persons have lost it entirely. Just like you said, they are now cohabiting and they're just neighbors. Please help us in this regard.
Okay. So one of the things you would want to start to do that will help, because you see, if you've completely lost it, you're actually going to need some outside encouragement. It may not be easy for you on your own as a couple to spark it up. This is for people who have completely lost it. One thing you can do is start by getting close friends to go out with. There are some people that don't go out.
Yeah.
They don't have outings.
Yeah.
So get one or two other couples and just say, you know what, let's go out. Now, especially if there are couples who are already doing what it is that you are hoping to do.
Like a
So
married
so
kind of
exactly.
thing.
So people who are already intimate in their own marriage. So
True.
go out with them. See, as you are watching them, it's going to help you
And
also to
encourage you.
encourage you for the steps you need to take. So if you see somebody pecking his wife while you are having dinner, then you say, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to peck. And then you see a woman holding the rubbing the back of the husband's head, So you want to start
We've
with
actually seen it work,
Yeah.
in reality,
Yeah.
this particular example.
So you want to start with that, and then of course you need to create that time to be able to go out. You see, outing is the main thing, because when you stay in the same environment, familiarity, it doesn't give you
Spark.
excitement. Remember, romance and excitement, they are kind of synonymous, So you want to always leave the your known environment, go somewhere that is new.
Start by even taking a walk.
Start by even taking a walk. Sometimes hold yourselves, take a walk around. You'll be shocked how the sparks will begin to come back as you do little things like that. So create time, change
together.
location, cook together, try to do
Just
things
say
together.
maybe every Sunday, like my husband and I cook every Sunday together.
Yeah.
Not every, most of the Sundays. Sometimes we don't
Sunday,
need to cook. But on Sundays where we need to cook, we just cook together. Sometimes we record what we're cooking, we share, and sometimes we're even sharing and talking when we're cooking. It could be as simple as that.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as
create.
that.
I say again, create
Time.
time. So schedule these things that we're talking about. Tell yourselves, okay, in a month, at least we'll go out once. Let's every month we'll go out once.
Disclaimer again. Don't think that going out needs you to go and have money in one place.
Yeah.
Because these are some of the things. Somebody, asked me a question. What if you don't have money to do honeymoon in the Maldives? And you don't need to go to the Maldives.
No.
You can. My husband and I wakes up and we go to sometimes
go
it's
to
just
Maraba
one.
if you don't have Maldives.
Just go somewhere. Sometimes we
You-
even just go and buy akara.
Yeah,
True.
you know, we used to do
We used to walk
when
from area
when we
to where
started
again?
from zone one to
Zone
area
1
one.
to area
When
1.
when we started our date nights, we would we'll get a hotel that is decent, not expensive, decent,
expensive,
as long
just
as they won't
decent.
beat us in the hotel,
Inside
you know,
the
somewhere
place.
that and we'll go there, and then from work on Friday we'll meet there, both of us will meet there, and then from there we'll go out. We may just go out and buy akara and buy yam
I'm telling
And
you.
come
and
back.
come back
Come back.
and eat, and then do what married people do in the night, and then in the morning wake up late, look for something for breakfast,
Gist.
and go back home, and that carries us, that excitement will
telling
just carry
you.
us. So we try to do it at least once a month or once in a quarter, and these are little things that we started doing. So it doesn't, like my wife said, you don't need to break the bank.
Please.
You don't need to break the bank. You can do
Walk
very
in the
exciting things.
evening.
Yeah,
Take a walk and go to one place and go and just buy akara and come back.
and come back.
It's as
That's
good as that.
exciting enough.
Those days we will walk from zone 1 to area 1. Such a long walk.
Yeah.
Now that I'm even thinking of it, when we're coming back, I'll be like, I'm tired. We need to just enter drop. But it was fun.
True.
It was fun to just walk in the night and just leave the car and just walk. Yep. So you can try.
Okay,
that.
people, there you have it. Lots of examples of things that you can do.
Mhm.
So pick one and start immediately. Create the time and do it. All right. You mentioned getting friends or people that can encourage you to do stuff. So my next question is on societal expectations. So as you begin to build friends, working with young people, it looks like we talk about peer pressure a lot. But peer pressure also happens with adults and couples. So how do we manage peer pressure? How do couples manage peer pressure? Societal expectations. I'm supposed to do this, but tell us about peer pressure and social expectations, especially since you mentioned finding people that you can do this stuff with. So you start looking and say, oh, those people, their own is work. Everybody is always looking at somebody's
The grass is
experience. It's always greener on
on
that
the
side.
other side.
So please talk to us about that.
What you're talking about is real. The societal pressure is real in marriages, and you need to be very careful so that you don't fall into that trap. Recently, sometime last year, my wife and I moved, well, the family, we moved into a new house.
Mm.
And months later, somebody got to know we moved into the new house, came to visit, and said, so you people moved into this kind of house and you didn't throw party. And we looked at ourselves, my wife and I said, throw party. He said, yeah, you can't move into this kind of house and not have a party. And so we smiled. We said, well, we had a party our own way. We had friends over the day after we moved in, and we all cooked in the kitchen, laughed, ate, and that was our own party. We didn't have to close the street. We didn't have to spend millions to do a party. No, we didn't need to do that. Now, that is us who have been able to overcome from the beginning. Because even our wedding, I could tell you the story of our wedding, but from the beginning of our wedding, no pressure was going to make us do anything that we didn't have money to do.
People suggested that we do things that were raining. We said
no. We said, well, if you want us to do it, pay for it.
It's okay,
Very
but
simple.
we're not.
What has guided us is a saying by the Bishop David Oyedepo. And he has said, men are in sizes and life is in phases. Live your phase part time. So once you are able to latch onto this principle, it will help you. That other couple you are looking at, both of you are running towards the same destination, but you are running different races. It's like somebody playing UEFA and somebody playing African Cup of Nations. There are two different competitions. All of them at the end you get a cup, but there are two different competitions. Face your own competition.
Face it.
Very simple. Face your own competition. And that brings me to the matter of creating a marriage plan. You can't have a marriage without running a marriage plan.
Because when you have a plan, you are following it.
Exactly.
You're not following the plan.
You're not following the plan of the society.
True.
I've told thousands of people in the hundreds of places that I've given speeches. When my wife and I were about to get married, the first thing we did on the day I proposed to her, and as a fine boy, she had to accept. On the day I proposed to her, The very first thing we did was
He
to sit
handed
down
me a paper and a
and
pen.
yeah,
No,
we
a book.
started to write a
A
marriage plan.
Honestly.
That plan is what we have followed. So we are not following what people are saying. We are following a plan. We followed it for 15 years.
And
It has
the
been
plan
successful,
is successful.
and we are still following it.
Mm.
So those are some of the things.
Follow a plan.
You know, recently my brother is preparing for his wedding.
Okay.
And then he goes, I'm not going to have a reception. And everybody in the family says, oh, wonderful. It's fine. We go to church and we go
And
home,
everybody
right?
goes home.
And he said, yes, because the pressure, oh, you know, this and all of that. So you want to actually from day one, like God
Decide.
said, decide. This is what we want. And we're going to follow it. All right. So I think that's
Okay, that was an important one for somebody. So you might need to make a lot of adjustments when it comes to managing social pressure. So go. Somebody is listening to us now and saying, "Oh, this is this we are talking. We are fine. You know, me and my wife, we are good. Nothing.
well, okay.
What are the signs? Like,
To know
is
that we're
this
not
road you are
okay.
going? The end of this road, there's wahala there. Please talk to us about signs that couples can watch out for. That this is like, what do we call it, for red flags, right?
Mhm.
Something is a warning sign that something is about to go wrong, and then that they need to start taking action. And what are those actions that people still need to start taking even when everything is fine, like no wahala? How do we manage that phase?
All right. So first thing is when you start noticing that you are not able to come into agreement on matters, that is a very big red flag. So every time there's a discussion about things and both of you have different opinions about the things, it's difficult for both of you to agree. That is already a red flag that the intimacy in that
Started to
marriage
drop.
is having a big challenge.
Mm.
Next is when you really don't have feelings anymore for your spouse. I'm talking about, you look at your spouse and nothing jumps up inside you excitedly about your spouse. That is a red flag. It happens to a lot of people, and they don't even understand that that's a big red flag. It may be your spouse that causes it. It may actually be just you who has just lost touch. Maybe you have pursued something so much that you've lost touch. Whatever it is, that is a big red flag. Another red flag is when you are always seeing other marriages that are better than yours. It means that ultimately there's a problem with your relationship. So your eye is always outside. There's a big problem happening in your relationship. It may be over expectation, but whatever it is a red flag. Of course, another red flag is when people will directly come and tell you. We were watching a movie the other day where their priests came to tell them things like, we don't see you in church anymore. What's going on? When you start hearing things like that, you should actually start sitting back and looking back and asking, okay, is everything okay with us? Because as a counselor, I have many people who it is when they reach the threshold, when something now happens, then they come to me to say, oh, my wife just slapped me. Oh, my husband just moved out of the house. And when we first start the conversation and I say, how's your marriage? Say, no, coach, my mind, everything is good. Everything is fine. And I say, okay, no problem. Then we continue the discussion. And then you now start hearing things that happen. Then the person starts crying. Then it is then that the person is now realizing that actually everything was not okay. But because we were trained, and this is where my wife comes in, because we were trained to mask emotions. We were trained not to acknowledge emotions. We were trained that if your husband is cheating on you, it's okay. Men must cheat, so it's normal. So we pray about it. We have those kind of mentalities, and so we actually think all is well. I mean, I had a woman the other day. I had to stop her in the middle when she was talking. She was talking about her husband cheating, and that it's normal for men. And all I just did was I now went and I called the girl and I started counseling her about life. I said, Madam, please hold on. Somebody is cheating with your husband, and you are counseling the person. I said, no, ma, you have lost it. Yeah, that's trauma. Serious trauma. So I had to stop her and tell her, do you know that there's a big problem in your house and you don't even understand that there's a problem? So I mean, these are these are
Wow.
Reflections.
Wow.
some signs,
Interesting.
Wow.
And so talking now about what you
What
need to
they
do.
can do.
Now, I said it along the line while we were talking. You need to be in an accountability system. I can't overemphasize that.
Even if your marriage is not having
Even
an
if
issue,
your marriage, if you think your
In
marriage is
fact,
okay, that's the more
that's the
reason why
more
you should
reason
be
you
in that
should
accountability system, so that your marriage will now
will
not have issues.
issues.
Do you know there are people who entered the couples conclave, and it was when they entered they realized they actually had
They had
issues in
issues.
their marriage. They didn't know.
Didn't know.
They thought all was well. But as they entered and we began our journey, our usual journey in the year, they began to see
Sometimes you finish
gaps.
listening to a class, you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
They began to
There's
see
we
a
have a
gaps.
problem.
here.
When we shared about intimacy in marriage, some people came and said, okay, so that means we're not even intimate spiritually.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yesterday I was talking about abuse in marriage in a live class, and I was talking about abuse. That's on Friday. I was talking
Intellectual
about
abuse.
and I was
think
talking
I
about
read.
intellectual abuse, financial abuse, and people said they've never really seen that
It that
that
way.
way.
Yes.
They never really knew that there was such a thing as intellectual abuse. All they knew when you talk about abuse
They
is
slap you.
the
They
slapping,
slapped me.
yes, physical
Abuse.
abuse.
Yes.
That's all they knew, or at most verbal, that's emotional
emotional
abuse. But all the other 8 abuses, they didn't know about them.
Mm.
And I'm very sure that many of the people that were saying they didn't know about them were probably either being abused or
Or
abusing their
abusing other
spouses
people.
without even knowing. So even if your marriage is okay, join an accountability system like the couples conclave. So that's one thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is you want to build skills.
Mm.
You want to build skills. There are so many skills to build in marriage: financial skills,
True.
conflict resolution skills.
We can't
Because,
even
I mean,
overemphasize
one of the skills in conflict resolution is communication.
Mm.
Because communication is one of the biggest things in marriage. So these are skills that you need to build to help you, because will you have conflicts? You definitely,
Yes.
you remember, you are two different people coming from two different homes with two different mindsets, so definitely you
There
will
will
have
be
conflicts. So you want to build this particular conflict resolution skill is too important, because it will save so many things in your marriage. So once there's a conflict, you have the skills to be able to resolve it, and then you move forward. So knowledge. There are people who have left school, or since they left the university, they've not picked up one
book.
They broke their book.
Exactly.
Their pencil.
That's all. And
And swore never to
oh
open it.
boy, that is an error you
I
are making,
agree.
because what you got in the university is probably just 100 of the
Of what there
knowledge
is.
that you need to excel. But if you don't want to excel, well, that's a different
That's
ball
okay.
game, because there's some people who don't want to excel. But I believe everybody wants to excel in their marriage.
I think the sweetest thing to actually do is to start this thing early.
Yeah.
That's why I called my youngest brother and the wife and said, you know what? Be in the marriage couples complaint from day one. So that we're not in any time saying, so as you're seeing it, you're resolving it, you're implementing it, you're not waiting for 20 years. Come and start working on your marriage.
I think that's a very instructive one. I saw something recently about, depleting batteries, and how you should not wait until your battery is red before you look for where to
Yeah.
plug it in. It works with our health. We're not used to going
Yeah.
for checkups.
Yeah.
We just wait until
are down.
things are
something has happened.
Yes,
Emergency. We always have emergencies.
True. We were raised like that.
Don't wait for
We
emergencies.
were raised for reactivity.
Don't wait for
Instead of
that.
response.
True.
Mm.
Okay. So we're winding down now. I'm just going to ask my final question. Gratitude. Because this whole familiarity thing, there's also a component of ingratitude, dishonor inside of it. So how can couples cultivate gratitude, appreciation for their spouses, admiration for one another? You said it's something about somebody looking outside. Before you get to that point, how can we build this culture of gratitude and admiration and appreciation, so that the romance thing can keep going, the intimacy conversation? That's what we have been talking about all this while. What has gratitude got to do with it, and how can couples put that in place?
Okay. I think this my wife will probably answer this question much better. I'll just start it and then she'll continue. The matter of gratitude actually is an upbringing thing.
Okay.
Yep.
So a lot of people did not learn gratitude in their homes when they were growing up. And so it's difficult for you to learn something like gratitude when you are now an adult. So if at home you didn't know how to do a simple thing like when they give you something, you say thank you. It looks simple.
Yeah.
Some of those things they teach you when you are young and you think, where am I going to use this? You use it every time in your life, every day. So because you didn't say thank you to your siblings, you didn't say thank you to your mother or father, of course you won't say thank you to your husband or your wife. And you think it's normal. So I mean, that's basic gratitude. Some people don't even know how to say thank you to God.
Yeah.
So you wake up every day, you open your eyes, and you because you were not taught. And let my wife take over from here because this is her own.
I was thinking about something. Minimization of the things that you should have been grateful for.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book, Raising the Independent Thinking Child. And in that book, I said that appreciation is a skill.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a skill you build. So the way we're taught to appreciate, you have done it, even though. There's an even though inside.
Entitlement.
Entitlement. There is, I know that you are doing well. Oh. See how parents, some people come to me and they want to say, thank you. I know that you are doing well, oh, but you need to try and add. That's ingratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't understand it because that's not how we were raised. We were raised with an attitude of ingratitude. Because our parents will come to you and say, hey, is it because you came first? So bloody what?
Everybody comes
first. Now what is it? We will not tell you are fine because it will enter your head.
Yeah,
we say those things. We didn't learn how to appreciate people. So you appreciate people with, and even you don't know how to receive appreciation.
Yes.
They're giving and they're receiving.
Yeah.
Your spouse wakes up and say, you are really busy. They whine me.
Exactly.
They whine me. Or you will say, are you about to die?
I saw something trending recently where wives were sending appreciation to their husbands and every husband responded with,
I saw
what do you
that.
want?
What do you want?
What happened?
Because that's how we were trained.
Yeah.
Right? So somebody comes to you and says, you're really looking nice. They say, hey, how much you are, George? We're just covering up. Or you say, this thing that I'm wearing, this that I bought that is looking like this. You can't accept it. You can't see yourself as someone who can receive appreciation or something good. So we don't know how to give it. We don't know how to receive it. So you can't give it. You can't give what you don't have. You can't give it. You can't receive it. So you are in you're with your spouse. Your spouse just wakes up and say, you're really looking really nice and all that. In your mind, you're like, what does he want? Where's he going with this? Any wife that you say you're looking beautiful, look at your say, he wants sex. I'm sure that this man is prepping me. Because that's what we understand. You're not used to it. You're not used to someone telling you something. You're also not used to being able to speak to people without minimizing an aspect of what they do. I know that you are very fine. I know that you are very smart, though. But this thing, once you put a but you have cancelled appreciation. And we do it to God. God, I know you've been good, though. I know you have tried for me, but this part, you haven't done it. That's ingratitude. So I think it's a thing we need to learn. And for every marriage to survive, gratitude becomes key.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing, the person we know that I appreciate the things you do. You wake up, you're not assuming it.
Yes.
You know that you are appreciated. Your husband knows that, this woman, you don't need anybody to tell you. So marriage needs a lot of appreciation. And I've seen a lack of appreciation cause resentment.
Yeah.
With all the things that I have done for her, with all the things I have done for him, he doesn't even think that I deserve is worth it.
Especially then there might be somebody on another place
who is now giving appreciation.
That is
the issue. Yeah. So we need to even teach this thing to our children. So that's why, as young as our children are, they finish eating in a restaurant where we have paid, we tell them, go back and go and say, I really thank you. And you don't just say thank you. Thank you for this
For
food. It was
something.
really, really nice.
Yes.
This is what I love, and blah, blah, blah. For some of us, I see that a lot in my line of work. You have paid for something, and then you just feel,
They
what
should
is
tell
it
you
that they
thank
should
you.
tell me thank you for it? These are part of it. But we think it's normal. We think it's okay. But it's because of the way we were programmed.
Sure.
So we're programmed with lack of appreciation or with the lack of being able to receive appreciation. Either ways, it rocks our marriages.
Still boils down to skill, right?
Yep.
Everybody should learn the skill of gratitude. And a lot of us are coming from a lot.
A lot.
A lot of us are coming from, and somebody said their own a lot is more than other people's a lot. So if you're coming from a lot, you want to find we've talked a lot about accountability, healing from the things that the wrong parenting systems that we are coming from, and all of that. And I think that we've had quite a number of things to go and digest on this particular episode of Relationship Bites. So I'm just going to ask you, Go, your final words on this subject of intimacy, and then Coach Wendy will also speak to us.
All right, great. I think this has been a very interesting conversation, and I just want to encourage everybody to build intimacy all round. So intimacy, like we had said, is not just about sex in marriage. There's so many things you need to be on the same page with your spouse, and the better you are, or the more you are on the same page with your spouse, the more you are able to do so much, because that's what intimacy is supposed to help you to do, to achieve much more than you on your own would have achieved in life. So I encourage everybody, do the best that you can do. Make sure you get the skills that you need to get, communication skills, conflict resolution skills, financial skills, all the skills you need. You need skills to run marriage, because marriage is an institution. Every time you remember that, you know that you need knowledge.
Alrighty, thank you. I'm going to end with the scripture that me and Coach T actually like a lot, when we talk. And it says that the journey of a foolish man wearieth every single one of them. Because they do not know how to get to the city. If you are going to, we talked about unskilled labor. So if you are going to laborer marriage, if this marriage is going to work, don't do it like a laborer.
You need skill.
So don't you will be weary. So get skilled. Get skilled up. So you are not doing an unskilled marriage, and you are not becoming a laborer even in your marriage. Thank you so much, Uncle D.
All right, people. So it's been an amazing hour plus hanging out with Coach Kunle Uloge, aka the Governor, and his lovely yellow wife, Coach Wendy Uloge. That's it on today's episode of Relationship Bites. And until we come your way again, have yourself a wonderful time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Bites with Wendy Uloge podcast today, where we share real conversations of diverse relationships and why they are important to human beings. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more, please subscribe to the Relationship Bites with Wendy Uloge on your preferred podcast player. Share this with others, your friends and family. Post about us on social media. Leave us a rating or a review. To keep up with our conversations online, you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Podcast by Wendy Uloge, or follow my personal page at Wendy Uloge, both on Facebook and also on Instagram. You can also catch my videos on YouTube, Wendy Uloge. You can also follow us on our Parenting Academy, where I share about parenting relationships, the intentional parent. You want to learn more about us? You can simply search us out on www.wendyologe.com, or you can email us, podcastbywendyologe@gmail.com. Thank you again, and catch you next time.